All right, good evening. Welcome back to our class for today. Okay, so last time we were still looking at categorical data. We analyzed some data and we also used the graph menu to come up with some charts. Okay, so today I mentioned that we'd start looking at continuous data. We'll try to analyze some continuous data using the same data set that we're working with. But as you can see, our data set doesn't have a lot of continuous data. The only data which we coded as scale, basically it's weight and also pH, right? That's basically the data that we coded as scale. So we do not have a lot of it, but still we just use it so that you can see how you can analyze your data separately if you decided to analyze your data, to analyze continuous data separate and also categorical data separate. Okay. But before we dive into looking at analyzing continuous data, we are just going to look at analyzing relationships between variables while we are still looking at categorical data. Okay? Analyzing what relationships between variables. Okay? Finding out whether one variable is related to the other, if there is any correlation. That is what we are going to look at. Okay? So in order for us to analyze some relationships, there are procedures that we can use. Okay? The first one that we're going to use is a cross-tab procedure. A cross-tabs procedure. Okay? So in order for us to describe a single categorical variable, we can use frequency tables. As we saw, we can describe one variable using a frequency table. In order to describe a relationship between two categorical variables, we use a special type of a table, okay, which is called a cross tabulation table. Okay, a cross tab in this case. That's the one I'm talking about. Cross tab for short, like if you want to use a shortcut, it's a cross tab or cross tabulation. Okay, so in a cross tabulation, you're going to have rows and columns, okay? And then you're also going to have cells in a table which contain the number of times that a particular variable combination categories does it occurs. So I'm going to try and relate two different type of variables and see if there's any relationship. Okay, that is what you do using a cross tab. It allows us to compare some percentage of cases that fall in each of these combinations of data. Okay. But in order for us to start using crosstab, we need to ask ourselves some questions. These questions are meant to help us get a relationship between our data. Okay. So maybe the first question that we can ask ourselves using this data, if we wanted to use a crosstab, is that, is there a relationship between marital status and overweight? You understand that, right? Is there a relationship between marital status and overweight? Okay. If someone is married or single or any other option, does it determine does it affect their weight? Like, are they going to be overweight or are they going to be normal? Okay, such kind of of questions, right? Yeah. So those are the kind of questions that we can ask ourselves. And in order for us to find an answer for that kind of a question, then we use cross tabulation. Okay. So we are going to, in order for us to use cross tabulation, All right. So in order for us to use cross tabulation, we're going to go under what? Under analyze. Okay. When you go under analyze, the same way that we're going under analyze, and then remember that time we were looking at frequencies, but now we're not going to look at frequencies. We're going to go under what? Cross tabs. You're able to see here, there's frequencies, there's descriptives, there's explore, there's also what? Cross tabs, and this is what we are going to look at. So we're going to click on what? Cross tabs. That is where we're going to click. Okay. When you click on cross tabs, you're going to see the cross tab tools popping up, right? So we have the same way that we had our variables on one end, and also spaces where we can enter what we want to use on the other end. The variables that we want to use on the other end is the same as here. Okay. So we say that our question is there a relationship between what? Between marital status and what? And weight. Okay. So that is what we are going to do what? To do. Under rows, we say the first one that we are looking at is what? Is marital what? Marital status. So we are going to choose marital status. Where's marital status? Here. Marital status is here. So we are going to click here. It's going to go under what? Under rows. And then the other one that we are looking at is what? Overweight. Okay. Here. Okay. Or perhaps we could just use weight. So no, like would, okay, let's just choose overweight. All right. So we're going to use overweight. All right. So you click there. If you want to create layers, you can choose here. Okay. Like you're going to have a lot of relationships. So you're going to do it for the first one, and then you add here, then you go to the next one, and you keep going. But for us, we are just going to do one, so we don't have to add anything under layers. Okay. So we can decide whether we want to use a clustered bar chart. We can click here. Okay. So, and then we're going to click what? Okay. All right. So this is our output. Okay. We have a case processing summary here, where we have the total number, and we also have the percentage here. Are there any variables missing? No. And the percentage for missing variables, it's 0. Basically, this is talking about our data. We know that it's 100%. We do not have any missing what? But okay, so this is our analysis. Okay, we are trying to find the relationship between what? Marital status and what? Overweight. So for single people who are single, 71 of them, they are what? They are not overweight. And what? 56 of them, they are what? They are overweight. And this is our total. Okay. When we go to the second one, those who are married, we have few people who are married, and out of the married people, 15 are not overweight, and what 16 are overweight. The total is 81. Okay. And for other, we have under other, we have 7 people they are not overweight, and 17 people are overweight. So the totals that we have, those who are not overweight, we have 93, and then we have 81. Okay, and the total is what? 182. From this analysis, you notice that the difference is very minimal, 93 and 89. You will notice that there's actually, from this, you can conclude that there's no correlation, because just look at the numbers, right? Look at the single people here. Almost the difference is not so much. When you come to married people, you notice that there's almost no difference here. And even other, the difference is basically not so much. Okay. So from this, you can make an analysis, and you can write in your research and indicate that you cannot say that there's a correlation between people being overweight and their marital status. Okay. So this is how you use cross tab to find a relationship. Okay. Let's try to answer another question. Let's talk about depression in terms of gender. Let's talk about depression in terms of gender. Is there a relationship in the way that are men? The question is, are men and women equally depressed? Like, do they all get depressed? Do we have men getting more depressed than women, or do we have women getting more depressed than men? That is our question. So in order for us to do the analysis, we are going to go back to analyze, and we're going to go to descriptive statistics, and we are going to go to cross tabs. And there it is. So we no longer want this, so I'm going to put it back. Or remember, we can just reset. Everything goes back to exactly the way it is. So you can either take the variables back, or you can just reset. Actually, resetting is usually the easiest way, right? Yeah. So we go back. We said we are using what? Gender and what? Depression. So in the rows, we are going to add what? Depression. In the rows, we are going to add depression. And then in the column, we are going to add gender here. Let's click there. So we have depression and we have what? Gender. We want to see a clustered bar chart. Yes. Okay. Oh, I've added the gender in the layer instead of adding it in the column. All right. So let me just do it again. Where is gender? It's up there. I'm just going to add it in here. All right. Then I'm going to click OK. And we get our analysis. For depression and gender. Our table is a little bit complicated. Right? So we have depression here. Males, females, total. Okay. Let's go down so that we look at the sum of our results, okay? All right, so these are our total results for males and females. Like how many males are depressed, how many females are depressed, and we get the actual total on the other hand. Okay, so let's look at this. First one is for males or females. Okay, so we have males and then we have females. Okay, we have males and then we have females. So we have 78 males who are depressed, and we have 104 females. Okay, so basically this is our analysis. So from here you can make a conclusion, right? Yeah. And let's look at our bar chart. Males and females. We have females in red, and we have males in in blue. When you look at this analysis, you will notice that also levels of depression from both males and females, basically almost the same, right? There isn't so much correlation, a relationship that we can say, okay, you'll notice that maybe the females are more depressed than the males, but no. Notice that here they are the same, then here the males are more depressed, and there the females are more depressed. So it's the relationship, the way that the data is the data that we gathered clearly indicates that there's no relationship between, because you're able to see that sometimes men are going to be more depressed than females, and sometimes we're going to have females more depressed than men. So the result indicates that both can be depressed whenever. There's no correlation, in short. Okay, there's nothing like females are getting more depressed than males. Okay, so basically that is how you use cross tabs, right? Are there any questions? Questions? All right, we can move on. If there are no questions, then we are going to move to. We're going to move to analyzing continuous data. Okay, I just wanted us to look at this before we continue. Okay, so we're going to move and start looking at what continuous data. Let me just save this. All right, so we're going to come back this time. Okay, analyzing continuous data. Well, there are certain things that we need to take note of as we start analyzing continuous data. When we want to analyze continuous data, we look for the following. Okay, basically we look for the following. Where is the center of the data? Okay, which is our mean and our median, right? Yeah, measure of dispensation, yeah, expansion, that way, you know. And then we also look at where are the benchmarks of our data, which are the quartiles and the percentiles. So we try to look at all those things when we're measuring and when we're analyzing our continuous data. Okay. And then the other thing is the spread out of the data. Okay, this is standard deviation, variance. Okay, how spread out, like we want to find out how spread out our data is, standard deviation and variance. So we can find those things when you are analyzing when you are analyzing continuous data. Yeah. And the other thing is we also try to look for any extremes in our data. Do we have any outliers? So for us to find the outliers, then we need to have the maximum, and we also need to have the minimum. Remember, when you're doing statistics, we have to actually use formulas to calculate these. We have to calculate the maximum, we have to calculate the minimum, we have to draw box plots in order for us to find what outliers. But when you're using SPSS, you don't have to go through all that. SPSS is able to do those calculations for you. Okay. So in order for you to analyze data, we go to what? To analyze, and we go to what? To descriptive statistics. And now we are not going to use frequency or cross tabs. We are going to use what? Descriptives. Okay. We are going to use descriptive, and we are just going to reset. Okay. So we have this table on the other hand where we can add variables that we want to analyze, and we have all the variables that we have on the other end this side. So we can decide which variables we want to analyze. Okay, we want to analyze continuous variables, which are scale variables. Continuous variables are scale variables. Okay. Yeah. And then categorical variables are nominal and ordinal variables. So we want to analyze body mass index and also our pH. Okay. So we have these two variables that we want to analyze. Okay. When we do the added them, okay. So we are just going to click on on options before we click OK, so that we can make sure that the things that we want to calculate are ticked. When you click on options, it's going to bring you here where you choose options. We have the mean here, which is ticked, which is okay. Then we also have the standard deviation here, which is also what we want. We can add what variance, minimum, maximum, okay? Do we also want the range? No, we can leave out the range, okay? Variable list, okay, this is not a big deal. It's basically display order, okay? You can choose any. Do you want descending means? Do you want ascending means or descending means? That depends with what you want, how you want your data to be your table to be arranged. So we have added the thing that we want to do at it to calculate, okay? So since we have added, we're going to click what? Okay. And there is our table, okay? So we have descriptive statistics there, where we have what? Our body mass index, the minimum is 2.00, the maximum is 4.00, the mean is 2.6, and we also have our standard deviation and also what our variance. We also have for pH, we have 20, we have minimum 20, maximum 50, our mean is 35, and our standard deviation is 8.84022, and we also have our variance, which is what? 78.146. So basically, this is how you do it, okay? And I should also mention that you can actually use the option for finding the frequency to analyze this same data that we have done here. Let's just go to analyze so that you see how you do it. So you go to analyze and then you go to frequencies. When you go to frequencies, let's reset. All right, we reset. All right. So when you go to frequencies, you choose the variables that you want to analyze. And in this case, we have body mass index, which we are going to add there. And the other one is our pH, which is here. So we're going to click OK. Okay. And then for us to make sure that we have those, we can click here. We have the mean, we have the median. We can also add the mode if we want. Then we have the percentiles here. You notice that the option for descriptives didn't have percentiles, right? But here we can actually add them. Okay. Yeah, we also have variance here, and we also have what? Standard deviation there. Then we can continue. Do we want any charts? Let's try to add the chart and see how it's going to come out. Let's try to add some charts. Let's say continue. Let's click OK, then we look at our data. All right, so this is our statistics. Over here, we have the mean for body mass index, and also for pH, we have the median. For each, we have the mode. We have standard deviation, we have variance, we have minimum, maximum. We also have the percentiles here, right? So we have the first quarter, we have this one, of course, which is what? Equal to the median, as you can see. And then we have the last one, which is the third quarter. Okay. Yeah. Let's try to look at the charts and see if it's in. We have the chart for body mass. Okay. So we have these people who are normal, and we have a few who are another one who are another group which is overweight, and we also have these ones here. Okay. Which is basically giving a proper chart. And actually it makes sense. We're able to follow what is happening. And we also have the pH. We have a lot of people in this range. The lot here, we only have a few here and a few here, right? The frequencies. So this basically gives us how our data is distributed. Where is it a lot of it? Like, how is the distribution? Okay. As you can see here, if you look at this description, you notice that a lot of people have the normal body mass index. And then we have and not so many here, and we have a few here. So this is how our data is distributed. Okay. Yeah. Before we conclude this class, I want us to look at the syntax editor. Remember when we were looking at how to code your data in SPS, talked about the syntax editor. Yeah. And I also talked about the variable view. Okay. Which was the data view. Yeah. You can use the variable view to do what? To code your data, and you can also use the syntax. Okay. What do we use the syntax for? Okay. SPSS syntax is a programming language. Okay. It is a programming language that is unique to what? To SPSS. And it allows you to do what? To perform analysis and also data manipulation, and that would be what? Tedious, difficult, or even impossible if you wanted to use a drop-down menu. Okay. Using drop-down menus, basically, this is what we have been doing throughout. Okay. I said if you want to analyze, you go under analyze, then the drop-down menu comes up, you see all these things, right? And then you go to descriptives, and then you choose again, another drop-down menu comes up, right? Yeah. So basically, that is what I mean when I say drop-down menu. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to run us through on how to what syntax. So as you have heard, this is a programming language. Okay, it's a whole different package on its own to learn how to code, to write this syntax in order for you to understand what is happening. To start from scratch, you need time to learn. Okay, so we are not going to start from scratch. I'm just going to show you how it works. Then you can take interest and learn the syntax, this programming language, and how to use it. Okay. So with time, you will learn how to use it, how to code directly in using this programming language. Okay. And I should also mention that when you learn how to use the programming language, it actually becomes more convenient, because when you write a code, you can easily go back to it and run it again and reuse it again. But what we are doing, whatever we did using the drop-down menus, we do not have the syntax for it. We only have maybe the results in the output, but we do not have the syntax for it. But if you use a syntax, if you use a programming language, you're able to go back and look at the syntax and make some changes and still use it to analyze more data. Okay. Yeah. So writing a syntax, basically giving what SPSS commands, telling it what to do. Okay. In our case, we were using menus and dialog boxes to tell SPSS what to do. It was also evoking the language that SPSS understands. We were still using the language that SPSS understands, of course. But when you manually type the programming language in the syntax, you can do it. You can do it, and then you can run that syntax, and the same results that we were getting when we were doing it manually, we can still get them, right? Yeah. So in order for us to use the syntax, remember I mentioned that we go to what? We go to file. Okay. And if you want to write a code from scratch, you go to new, right? New, you choose what? Syntax here. When you choose the syntax, then it's going to give you this this syntax editor, which is here. Then you can start writing from here. Okay? Notice you can start writing your code from here. When you're done in the first line, you go in the second line, you write again. When you're done, you go in the next one, you write. So basically, this is how I write what? Codes using what? This programming language, okay? We also have a lot of options, okay, here. Okay, this syntax editor, it's also separate. It has, you have to save it separate when you write some codes here. Like I mentioned for output window, if you have saved your data, if you've saved your data window, you cannot assume that you have everything is going to be saved. You have to do it over again. Okay. Yeah. But then I said we are not going to start from scratch. So we are going to get a syntax which is already available. And then we are going to see how it works. But then you might be wondering, where are we going to get the syntax which is already available? Remember, I said that when we use drop-down menus and write commands, we are basically doing what? Using the syntax. Okay? We're basically using the syntax, okay? So every time that the commands that we give SPS, when they run, in the output window, they give us the syntax to go with it. If you notice here, we have this part here, which is the log. This is the syntax for everything that's down there, okay? There's here, we have statistics, we have bar charts, we have frequency. It's basically telling us what's happening down here, okay? But for you, in order for you to properly understand, we are going to run another one so that you see exactly what I'm talking about. But in this case, we are going to use what? Frequencies. We are going to use frequencies. We are going to go to frequencies. And then let's just reset so that we use other variables. Okay. So I have done a reset, right? I've done a reset. So we're going to choose two variables. We're going to choose, let's choose marital status. We want to run, we want to analyze this. So we are going to choose marital status. And also, which other one can we choose? Let's choose age. How old are you? Age. So we have two variables on the other end, right? So we have two variables. Let's add a chart. Pie chart? No, let's add a bar chart. Okay. Let's continue. What else can we add? Let's add some statistics. Let's try to add some median, mean. Let's just try this. To add maximum and minimum. Of course, we cannot get a maximum for marital status, but I just want you to see how it runs. Okay, let's in. Okay. So we've done that. So let's click OK. Okay. So these are our results. Okay. Our results start from here, right? Marital status, and remember I said that when you run a command, when you run a command and they bring you the syntax here. So you notice that we have done frequencies variables, right? We went to frequencies, and then they're telling us that the variables are what? Marital status and what? And age. Under the what? The syntax. Okay. And then under statistics, we have what are we trying to find? Under statistics, we chose maximum, we chose mean, and we also chose what? Median, right? And under the bar chart, under the frequency, we chose bar chart, right? And we also chose what? Order. Under order, we didn't choose. It was just analysis, basically. It was analysis, okay? So this is our syntax, and these are our results. Of course, we're already familiar with our results. So let's use the syntax. Okay, let's copy it, and let's go to file. We go to file, and then we go to new. Then we go to syntax. Let's try to copy it here. To paste it here. When you bring that syntax to the syntax editor, you notice that the colors change, right? These colors, each of these colors represents something in these variables. Okay. So we have blue here, we have red here, we have what? Minimum, we have frequency, and we also have analyze, and we also have these green colors this side. Okay. So when you learn this programming language, you start coding from scratch. You start coding your commands from scratch. You understand how all these how they work. Okay. So the variables are in black. You notice marital status is in black. Let's assume we can actually choose to run it from here, right? You can run it here, or you can click here and choose to run everything. Or if you just want to run a selection, you can click here. Okay. But before you run it, let's assume we want to change it a little bit. Here, where there's marital status, let's try to change. Instead of marital status, let's put gender. Gender, like that. Let's put gender, yeah. And also, let's remove, let's change this chart. Let's assume we don't want the bar chart. We want a pie chart, so let's delete this. When you delete bar chart, you notice they bring you what options here. We have grouped, we have histogram, we have missing, we have tiles, but we want pie chart. So we're just going to click pie chart, right? Then the rest we are going to leave them exactly the way it is. Maybe let's also remove maximum and let's remove maximum. Yeah, let's remove maximum. Okay, let's just remain with those two. Okay, and then let's run this code. We're going to run it all because that's all we have right there, right? When you run it, it brings you back to the output window, and this is our output. We only have mean and median right here. Then we have a frequency table for each. We have for gender here. Okay. We also have another frequency table for how old are you. And then we have this pie chart that we requested, right? For gender, males against females, we have it here. And also for how old are you? Of course, this kind of data cannot be presented using a pie chart, but I just wanted to show you how the syntax works. Okay. So you notice basically the syntax did run, and these are the results. So if you didn't use the drop-down menus, you just decided you're going to use the syntax to run your code, you can still do it, right? You can still do it. You can write the syntax and run it, okay? And then the good part, like I mentioned, you'll be able to save these codes, okay? You can save these codes, okay? Let's just close the output. You can save this code, okay? You can go to file and you can you can save, okay? So it's going to be called syntax 5, then you can click save. And next time when you want to use it, you can just go back and use it, okay? So basically, this is how you use the syntax. Okay, so let's try to learn how to use the syntax so that we can start coding. We become experts in SPSS and start coding. When entering the variables, we use the syntax instead of using the variable view. Okay, so basically that is all. If you have any questions, please let us feel free to reach out and ask the questions. Okay. Yeah.